Hello, I am Lisa Gardner, CEO of OMS Strategic Advisors and host of the Uncompromised podcast, where we do have an unwavering commitment to values, beliefs, authenticity, integrity, and character that does bring heart and care to any organization. On this episode of the Uncompromised podcast, I have the pleasure of interviewing the esteemed Michael Ford. Michael's journey is one marked by a relentless pursuit of operational perfection and a dedication to leveraging innovation to drive tangible results. With a career spanning strategic leadership, business analysis, and corporate real estate, Michael has honed his skills in navigating complex challenges and delivering impactful solutions. Currently serving as the Senior Vice President of Global Real Estate and Security at AT&T, Michael oversees a vast portfolio of nearly 200 million square feet, where strategic foresight meets operational insight. His role not only involves shaping the physical landscape of AT&T's operations, but also safeguarding its invaluable assets through robust security measures. Prior to his tenure at AT&T, Michael spent 18 years at Microsoft, where he played a pivotal role in revolutionizing global workplace services for over 200,000 employees across 113 countries. His leadership extended beyond traditional real estate management, encompassing security, risk mitigation, and crisis management on a global scale. Beyond the boardroom, Michael is a passionate advocate for sustainability and community vibrancy, actively contributing to nonprofit organizations such as Forterra and serving on advisory boards for institutions like the College Football Hall of Fame. Welcome, Michael. It is an honor and a pleasure to have you. Well, Michael, first of all, I want to say thank you for saying yes to coming on the podcast. And, when I think about you, long before I have actually had conversations with you, I knew that you were a man that fit the theme of this podcast. I remember reaching out to you early one Sunday morning through LinkedIn, actually. And you returning my message right away. And I was very excited about how we were going to meet you eventually and connect with you. I think you can't have too many leaders and people in your life that inspire you and keep you going to tell the truth and be authentic, truly being your authentic self. And that is how I describe you. So thank you again. I really appreciate this time with you.
Well, it's great to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I want to just first go to the first question and just ask you, how did your upbringing, your family, your community make you who you are today? Siblings, brothers, sisters, extended family, your faith, all of that. How does that play into who you are today?
Well, I'll start in the present. I've been married for over 30 years to my wife, Shala. We have 3 adult children. They've all graduated from college and they're in the working world now. I grew up in Newmarket, Alabama. It's a small town outside of Huntsville, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Buckhorn High School, and people that know Huntsville is called the Rocket City. It has NASA, the Marshall Space Flight Center's there. Space Camp is in Huntsville, Alabama. And I have a large extended family there. The majority of my family is in the Huntsville area, although we have people living internationally and all over the US, but I have a large family in Alabama. And I've always been surrounded by my family. Of course, my parents, Mac and Ruby Ford, my sisters, Vanessa. I've had uncles and aunts and cousins, and you name it, always being there for me. Yes. Being born during the civil rights movement and growing up in the 70s and 80s, of course, that played a huge part in shaping who I am today. I was fortunate to go to an HBCU, Alabama A&M University, right there in Huntsville. And I chose to stay at home because my parents are small business owners. My dad's a general contractor. He does small commercial and residential. And I grew up in the business. I wanted to continue in the business as I went through school. I also joined the Marine Corps Reserves while I was in school to help me pay for my education. So I actually graduated with no college debt. And I was commissioned in the Marine Corps and eventually became a major in the Marine Corps. But what sticks with me the most is my parents instilled in me, 4 areas or 4 principles: faith, family, education, and hard work. like I always say, faith. You need to believe in something to get you through the toughest parts. Family. It can be your immediate family, your extended family, your work family, or for me, I have a military family. You don't get there by yourself. You need people supporting you. Education. The world is continuing to change, and you need to be a lifelong learner. So I try to learn as much as I can, reading books or taking courses online, because you have to stay ahead of the game. And then hard work, there is no substitute for hard work. You have to put the work in. If you do all of that, you're going to have a great career. You're going to have a great life. But those are things that I do not compromise. I will not change. Those are my principles.
Absolutely. You hit on four huge pillars that I think also has been just a woven thread with a lot of the guests that we have chosen. Those four areas, because you're right, those are the pillars of keeping yourself to your authentic self and keeping to a
Right.
strong foundation. Absolutely. I could not agree more. I think even when I had Herman Bowles on, he hit on those pillars as well. And
Great.
same thing, because the point is, when we're put into the cultures that we're put into and to the environments we're put into, if you don't hold those four, then you could be waved around. You could, you could become a very unstable, becoming a very unstable foundation of unstable person. So I think that's what makes great leaders as well. So thank you for that. That
Mhm.
I truly believe that as well. What have you noticed with people, Michael, that are capable of initiating change, but they're hesitant or they choose not to initiate change?
Well, from my vantage point, there's a couple of things that I would focus on, and one being the fear of uncertainty. Change, by definition, is implying that you're moving from the known to the unknown, and that makes people very uncomfortable. And the other I would point out would be the fear of failure. People are afraid to take risks because of the possible outcome. It may not work out the way they want things to work out. But on the flip side, people that are change agents, they're comfortable being uncomfortable. And sometimes you have to be uncomfortable, uh, be comfortable being uncomfortable to get things done. But you have to compromise on a couple things. You don't get that immediate gratification in
Yes.
some cases. The time that you put in today, you may not see the result into the future, but you have to be patient. But the bottom line is, if you're going to be a change agent, if you're going to create change, you have to be willing to be uncomfortable and move out of your comfort zone. Embrace uncertainty. You have to accept the possibility of failing. That's going to make you who you are, and that's going to make you a better person. You learn more from failures than you do your successes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's just like you put it, you're not taking the journey of life unless you get used to failing as much as succeeding. And like you said, failing, the failures of life is where you learn. Those are the
Mhm.
greatest learning points. So yes, I completely agree with that. How do you explain the importance of inclusivity and diversity? And I think I worded this question in a way, but and I think you'll expound even more, but how do you explain the importance of diversity and inclusivity strategies to an audience
Mhm.
that may not truly understand the importance, or understand, they may understand even the importance, but they might not truly understand how to get there. They might not understand the process of what it takes to get there. And I'll just let you take it from there. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I'll answer the question from terms of the workplace or corporate America, and
Mhm.
I'll start by saying don't be afraid to hire the best and the brightest. If you do that, your team will be diverse, first of all. And if your team is diverse, it will lead to favorable outcomes. So, diversity is super important to lead to favorable outcomes. For example, you could take any sports team. High performing teams are not made up of players with the same skill set. They have diverse skill sets. That's what makes them high performing teams. And inclusion and diversity always matters if you want to be the best.
Mhm. Absolutely. Let me ask you sort of a question on that. When you talk about diversity, what is the process of you said you always hire the best and the brightest, and yes, but those that may feel that there is a threat in hiring diversity, how do you handle that? How do you communicate that truly it's a win-win for everyone and not a threat and nothing to be fearful of?
Well, I mean, you have to show people by example. I've had a long career. I've done it at every stop. And yes, I only hire the best and the brightest. And if you're looking for the best and brightest, it's going to be diverse. That could be gender diversity, ethnic diversity, you name it. If you have a diverse team, it's going to be a high performing team. So you have to show people by example.
Absolutely. There was another definition given to me by one of my guests as well, which I think you're hitting on as well. Ron Parker said that's where your innovation, your creativity comes from. And that's again tied into hiring the best and the brightest as well.
Mhm.
That is where when you round the table, you get the best ideas. And
Oh, absolutely.
yeah. So, and definitely your past, where you've come from and where you are now at AT&T, I think both companies have shown that as well.
That's right.
Uh, what strategies have you used to drive change management initiatives, Michael, and why do you believe they have worked? And then let me go on the flip side. Um, for those, when did you have to take a pivotal change for those that did not work? And how did you do that? How did you overcome that? And how did you lead an organization to overcome that?
Well, it starts with the who for me, not the how.
Mhm.
It's who you're bringing on your team. If you're building an effective leadership team, it starts with the people, and the people can help you with the strategy to drive any change you need for your organization or for your company, whether it's financial, operational, or technical. It always starts with the people. Why does this work? I make the team a part of the solution. I ensure that all voices are heard. uh, Teams are made up of different people. You have introverts on your team, you have extroverts on your team, you have people that are analytical, some are technical, some are creative. You must create a listening mechanism that includes all. You can do this through staff meetings, you can have skip level meetings, you have town halls, surveys, focus groups, you name it. Great advice can come from anyone in your organization. And listening is the key to make successful decisions and change management.
Very well said. When you talk about teams and being valued and being heard, feeling valued rather, and being heard around the table, making sure that everyone's ideas are coming to the table. Because like you said, you have introverts, extroverts, analytical people, those who are extremely, expressive. Um, that also ties back into me and understanding your diverse table as well, and making sure as a leader that you are bringing everyone's thoughts to the table. Do you have any more thoughts about that as well? How do you make sure that everyone feels valued and heard around a table in a room, and in a room that maybe not everyone may look like you, right? You may be one that does not look like the majority in the room. How do you handle that, or how do you coach to that within your organization?
You have to meet them where they are. People are different. Some people are very vocal publicly, some are not. You have to give them the opportunity to share feedback with you, whether it's in a meeting or it's a one on one with you or somebody from your team. So you have to create opportunities for everyone to share their opinion.
I would agree. I would agree. Well, let me ask you this. Where in your career could you have compromised, Michael, but you chose not to? Just an example, don't have to give a lot of detail, but just an example, and sort of send us through your thinking and your process and your mindset behind that. And specifically, when I ask this question, I'm thinking of our next generation. I'm thinking of our emerging talent and emerging leaders out there. It's good for them to know that everyone is faced with that, but the decision you make is what counts, especially coming from a leader like yourself.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to bring my authentic self to work. Now, I do not compromise there, especially at this stage of my career. But I must admit that has not always been the case. Early in your career, you may compromise on a couple of things as you build your career. But now, I will not compromise. And I encourage people that are early in their career not to compromise and be their authentic self, because that's what we're looking for. But again, early in your career, you have challenges, but build that personal board of directors around you. I sit on a lot of people's personal board of directors. I have my own personal board of directors, so I can bounce things off of people, and they can encourage you, and they can give you the motivation to be who you are. Because believe it or not, in corporate America, that's what we're looking for. We don't need anybody to come in and be like John. You need to be like who you are. Be Michael or be Lisa.
Mhm, mhm. Absolutely. Another one of my guests, Tori Littlejohn, she, well, I asked her a similar question, and she said to me, Michael, she said, like you, she says, early on in my career, she says, I compromised maybe in the fact that I didn't speak up when I should have around a table. She
Mhm.
says, let's be honest, financially, I was in a different spot earlier in my career versus where I am now, right? So she says, I did not feel as strong or comfortable to speak up when there was something going on that I knew that maybe right? But she says, but now she says, I absolutely, where I am in my season life, I hold no qualms. I speak up, I come as my authentic self. So I thought that was very interesting correlation to what
Yeah.
you were.
I never had that challenge of speaking up, coming from the military, the Marine Corps, where you build that confidence. But sometimes you have to take a step back and sit on the balcony and listen to the conversation before you make a comment. And those some of the mistakes I've made as I grew my career is sometimes listening is better.
Listening is powerful.
That's right.
Right now, I'm just thinking of a devotion that we had, be quick to hear and slow to speak, right? So
That's right.
yeah, absolutely. Um, my next question I thought was funny. I said, well, this is a no-brainer. Michael Ford definitely pushes himself outside of his comfort zone, right? Um, but what pushes you outside your comfort zone? What would you tell people that actually pushes you, to this very day, what pushes you out of your comfort zone?
I enjoy a challenge. If you have a problem, whether it's in corporate America or in the workplace, I will make a difference. I will do the same thing in my personal life. For example, I picked up golf a few years ago. What a challenging sport. You'll never get there as an amateur. It's really hard, but I work at it. I have a coach. I spend time on the course trying to get better, but it's super challenging. But it's a great outlet from work. Another example is cycling. I took up cycling several years ago when I was living in the Seattle area, and I trained, and I actually would do the Seattle to Portland bike ride every year. It's 200 miles. People would say, you can't do that. You're crazy. Why would you do that? Well, that drove me to do that. And I did it several years in a row. I took a break from it, and now I'm jumping back in, living in the Dallas area now, and I'm back into cycling. Matter of fact, next week I'm going to Alabama to ride in Bo Bikes, Alabama. Bo Jackson, his annual fundraiser. I'm going to be in the Bo Bikes, Alabama race next weekend. So I'm looking forward to that. But challenges are growth opportunities for me, whether it's in the workplace or in my personal life.
Absolutely. So tell me the why. What happens when you take that challenge and let's say that you didn't quite meet up to the challenge, or let's say that you met the challenge. What does that do for you? What happens?
It's energy. It gives me energy, and it helps me in the workplace to have somewhere else to go, something else to focus on. We're all busy in the workplace, and our days are long and they're tough, but it gives me that outlet, that golf, that cycling, or just having conversations with people outside of work. It gives me energy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would say it transfers over into who we become even as leaders, employees, that kind of thing. Yeah. So if you were to rewind the clock, let's say I'll say 30 years.
Okay.
30. What would you tell yourself? What would you say to your 30-year self back
I
30
would
years?
say you're going to encounter ups and downs, the good and the bad throughout your life journey. Trust the process. As you learn, share your experiences with others because it's not about what I'm going to accomplish in my life. It's what I can inspire others to accomplish in their lives. That drives me also. I like to see people grow. That's
Yes.
why I like coaching. When I was a coach, I was a youth coach. I love to see them grow and get better in the sport and just get better in life.
That's good. Again, going back to a previous interview, I think it was Herman's interview. We talked about the pet to threat that happens a lot of times within corporate America, that
Mhm.
someone will mentor you, sponsor you, like you just said. I love seeing others grow, right? And then it comes to a point that that same individual that you have mentored, that you have sponsored, may surpass you.
Yep,
And they, so it's a pet to threat thing, right? Versus it should be pet to bravo, right? We should be
that's right.
celebrating more. Um, but just to hear a few words of your thoughts on those that you have mentored, you have sponsored, and how you have celebrated the fact that they have gone on to do, and you hope they go beyond you. It's similar to us as parents. We want our
That's right.
children to surpass us. So just your thoughts on that a little bit.
Yeah, for me, it just drives me to see others grow. Definitely, my kids, my young adult kids, they're all doing great.
Mhm.
I have my son. He has a great career. He's been out in the working world for about 9 years now. We still talk. I answer questions. I help coach, mentor him.
Yeah,
My oldest daughter, the same way. She's in the military. I was in the military. We have military discussions. Great to see her grow into who she is today. My youngest just graduated from college and she's in the working world. The same thing. It's sort of funny for me because they're having some of the conversations I had when I was early in my career. They're asking some of the same questions, and it's great to see them grow up. And it's not just my kids, it's others. I
yeah.
love to see them go beyond where I've gone in my career.
Absolutely. I have a 21-year-old daughter, and the one thing, she had an internship last summer. Actually, it was with CBRE. And one thing I told her, the most important thing is for you to have a teachable spirit. Always be teachable, um, so that you can grow past and meet the destiny that God has for you, right?
That's
Um,
right. Accept the feedback.
accept,
Accept the feedback. It is a
accept the
gift.
feedback. And it's okay that and like you said, failures, mistakes is the only way we grow. So it's okay to admit that, hey, I'm not as buttoned up as I should be in this. But guess what? The next time I will be. And so yes, absolutely. And there's a whole satisfaction in mentoring to that, sponsoring to that as well behind closed doors, but mentoring to that and then watching your own children go through that. I think that's the season of life that Lawrence and I are in as well, as you have stated, with your own children and with those even that aren't your children. So that's great. That's great. Um, can you share a decision you made that maybe didn't turn out as you expected, which I think you've already hit on this with a few of the questions I've asked before? And how did you overcome and strategically pivot to overcome the unexpected result, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I can think say it's a specific thing, but in general, it's communication.
Mm.
From the time I left the military, started in corporate America, is becoming a better communicator. People hear things differently. You need to learn to communicate to people in different ways. You can communicate through email, but you can have 10 people and they're going to receive it 10 different ways.
So
So
true.
you should have conversations, real conversations with people. You can send an email, but you should follow it up with a conversation. And for example, here at work, I'll send a communication to my broader organization. I will follow that up with a town hall meeting to answer their questions, to make sure it's clear and create the clarity that everybody's looking for. So throughout my career, I've got better at communicating and the different ways of communicating. Now you communicate through text in the workplace, through messenger, through email, through podcasts. There's so many different ways to get your message out, but you need to do it multiple ways because people receive information differently.
Absolutely. The way we receive information is not the way it was 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago. And so all these venues we need to take advantage of, don't we?
For sure.
Absolutely. Michael, when you look over your lifetime, and I'm going to speak of, I can almost imagine with this question, the first person you're going to say, but what leaders or what leader has impacted you the most? And what would you say, what were the characteristics of that leader? What did they have that impacted you the most? And
that's an easy.
So that you don't, I almost think I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
Oh, it's my parents.
Exactly. I was going to say, Max is his name, right? Your father?
Mac Ford.
Mac. See, I
Mac and Ruby Ford, my mother.
Yes.
They inspired me. They started a business in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s, a construction business in Newmarket, Alabama. And they were successful. They're still successful today. They're both in their 80s and they're still building. So it started with my parents, but it's been so many different people along the way. My pastor at the church I grew up in Newmarket, Alabama, to my coach, my football coach at Buckhorn High School, which we still communicate today. He always tell me, Michael, if you're going to make a mistake, this is on the football field, make it full speed. That means you know what you want to do. You may step the wrong way, you may go the wrong way, but keep going and good things will happen. And so he instilled that into me. You've got, Martin Luther King. Was I around? I was a kid, but I listen to the speeches today and they inspire you. There's been so many people in the working world that have inspired me. My uncles, my aunts, I've watched them grow their careers and they inspired me, but they would always encourage me. From the time I can remember, 4 or 5 years old, they always encouraged you, but they also gave you feedback. And that helped and inspired me throughout my career. And I'm doing the same thing. I've got to lift as I climb. I've got to reach back and bring somebody along with me. Yes. I always mentor people. If a person reaches out and say they want to be mentored, I find time for them because somebody found time for me.
Absolutely. It's not even an option at this point. And especially when I think of the past maybe 15 years for me, it's just not an option always. I think about my past life and those that mentored me. It was never a no. Anyone that I had my eye on, that I knew there was something that I was supposed to gain from them, and in hopes that I could also circle around and give it right back eventually. So, but I cannot agree with you more. So, but I knew that you were going to say your father, Mac. I knew that. So. What is your main motivation when it comes to leadership?
It's all about watching people grow, or growing a team. It's about team for me. It's not about the individual. It's never been about me. It's about us. It's about we. It's the team itself. I learned that from my family growing up in Newmarket, Alabama. I learned that in the Marine Corps. It's all about the team. And so that, continues to motivate me, and I continue to carry that forward.
Yes. And I think with that mentality, I think about the process of that mentality is knowing that, and this is just my faith coming out. What I believe in my value system is that God created enough space for everyone to run their lane and be successful. There's enough success for everyone. And when you know that, then there's a plan for you. And so there's, that is my motivation with leadership as well, knowing that there's a space and a plan for everyone, just like you said. So, and there's a destiny to be made. So,
and our job is to inspire that next generation of leaders, no matter what they choose to do.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. I think the biggest lesson I've learned in what you just said is having children, right? I think about my daughter, 21, and she's not a carbon copy of me. And if I tried to make her that, that would be completely wrong. So, but yes, making sure you understand what is the plan that is for them. What is their strength? What should they be doing, right? So, well, I can't thank you enough for this interview and for this conversation. It's not even an interview, it's a conversation. So thank you. I think more conversations like this just adds a deeper well to the culture that we're in right now. And I can't thank you enough.
I appreciate the opportunity, and let's keep the conversation going.